Princess Alara Velzer stood beneath the gilded arches of the Grand Council Hall, her spine straight, her expression unreadable. The domed ceiling above shimmered with the moving constellations of the Zerthian sector, a symbol of their so-called divine rule over the stars. Below, gathered in a crescent of velvet-robed officials, the High Council watched her with veiled amusement. "The gift will be presented shortly," announced Chancellor Cale Thorne, his voice low and oily. Alara did not flinch. She knew the intent behind the gesture. She was the gift. An offering to the human ambassador, Elias Monroe. A joke, a political insult wrapped in silk. A noble-born princess pawned off like an exotic trinket, meant to degrade not only her, but the humans they viewed as upstart savages. She turned her gaze toward Cale. He was a predator in ceremonial garb, smiling, triumphant, unaware she saw through every layer of his smirk. "Do you find this amusing, Chancellor?" she asked, her voice quiet but cutting. Cale chuckled. "I find it diplomatic." "And he?" she pressed. "Does the ambassador know he's part of the entertainment?" "He will accept," Cale said simply. "They always do. Humans crave spectacle." The chamber doors opened with a resonant hum. Captain Elias Monroe entered alone, his Earth Standard uniform crisp, his step unhurried. He wasn't what she expected. No flamboyant swagger, no wide-eyed fascination. He carried himself like a man used to walking through hostile rooms and surviving them. He approached, stopping a respectful distance away. For a heartbeat, the room held its breath. Alara extended her hand, not as a token of submission, but as a test. The joke was supposed to end here, with mockery, a flustered human, laughter echoing through the chamber. Instead, Monroe bowed slightly and took her hand, brushing his lips across her knuckles with deliberate grace. "It's an honor to meet you, Princess Alara," he said. The silence cracked. Someone stifled a cough. Another muttered, "He doesn't know." But Monroe did know. She saw it in his eyes. This wasn't ignorance. It was defiance wrapped in courtesy. "You surprise me, Captain," she said coolly. "That's the human specialty," he replied. She held his gaze, letting the moment stretch. His eyes weren't challenging, but neither were they deferential. It unsettled her more than she'd admit. Cale recovered first. "Excellent," he said with mock cheer. "I trust our new alliance begins on a pleasing note." Monroe glanced at him. "I've received stranger welcomes. But if your intent was to forge goodwill, a dinner invitation might have been more traditional." A ripple of discomfort moved through the council. Alara almost smiled. Later, in the transit hall, she walked beside Monroe as aides bustled about with protocol updates and ceremonial documents. She hadn't been dismissed, nor had she refused the appointment. Both were still possible, and yet neither of them acted like this was temporary. "You handled that well," she said, once they were alone in a quieter corridor. "Better than I would have." "People usually laugh at you too?" he asked, deadpan. "Not to my face." He stopped. "I'm sorry for what they did. They wanted to insult us both." "I know," she said. "But you didn't let them." Elias studied her carefully. "Why didn't you refuse?" Alara hesitated. She could have. Royal status granted her that right. But she had been tired of the endless rituals, the veiled threats, the way progress choked under tradition's heavy hand. Maybe she saw in him a window. Maybe she wanted to see what lay beyond it. "Curiosity," she admitted. "And contempt. For them, for their arrogance. And perhaps, a little hope. You want out." She tilted her head. "You say that as if you understand. I've spent most of my career in rooms like that. People who smile while sharpening blades behind their backs. I know what it means to be handled like a message instead of a person." She considered that, then nodded. "Good. Then we understand each other." The human vessel Odyssey waited in orbit. Aboard, the sterile diplomacy of the Council would be replaced by the chaos and color of human life. Unpredictable, unrefined, real. "You're sure about this?" Elias asked, pausing before the boarding ramp. "No," she said. But I'm not afraid of not being sure. His mouth quirked upward. That'll fit in well. We specialize in uncertain beginnings. They stepped aboard together. The Odyssey was unlike anything in the Dominion's fleet, lived in, imperfect, human. Lights flickered faintly in one corridor, and a crew member jogged by with an open toolkit, muttering about gravity calibrators. It wasn't disorder. It was authenticity. As they moved through the ship, crew members stole curious glances at her, some wary, some intrigued. She was used to the weight of attention, but not like this. There was no bowing, no stiff formality. Just quiet assessments, open questions behind their eyes. Elias stopped at a viewing deck overlooking the stars. He turned to her. You're not a prisoner here. You can leave whenever you want. I know, she said. But you won't. No. He nodded once. Then let's begin. Alara stood at the window, watching the stars shift as the ship prepared for jump. For the first time in decades, she wasn't being watched, ordered, shaped. She was simply moving forward. And that, she realized, was the first taste of freedom. The Odyssey surged into faster-than-light travel with a low hum that vibrated through the walls. Alara stood at the viewport, her reflection fractured by streaks of stars. Space bent around them, beautiful, quiet, unknowable. It felt like a metaphor for everything she was stepping into. A soft chime sounded. The door slid open behind her. You hungry? Elias asked, arms folded. Or do your people survive on contempt and elegance? She turned, arching a brow. We eat. Though I doubt our tastes align. You might be surprised. Our cooks made worse things edible. He gestured. Come on. Let's test your stomach. They walked together through the curving corridors of the ship. Unlike the marble symmetry of Xerthian palaces, the Odyssey was all function, exposed piping, scuffed floors, and the faint smell of lubricant. Yet it felt alive. Crew members greeted Elias with nods and casual remarks. He responded with the ease of someone respected without demanding it. In the mess hall, conversation paused as Alara entered. She felt it, a ripple of curiosity, cautious respect, and something harder to place. Not fear, but alertness. These weren't sycophants trained in courtly obedience. They were thinking people, reacting in real time. Elias nodded to a table in the corner. Privacy-ish. They sat. A moment later, a tray arrived, rice, protein, greens, nothing elaborate. Alara eyed it. This is food? He stabbed a piece with his fork. Standard fare. Don't judge a planet by its rations. She mimicked his movements, cautiously tasting it. Her brow furrowed. It's not bad. That's dangerously close to a compliment. Don't get used to it. He chuckled. Noted. They ate quietly for a while. The hum of conversation returned around them. Alara's presence had registered but didn't dominate. No one bowed. No one avoided her gaze. They simply adjusted. That, more than anything, told her this place was different. Elias leaned back. Want a tour? I want to understand. He tilted his head. Understand what? Humans. You. That's a lot for one tour. She shrugged. I have time. He stood. Then let's start with engineering. Nothing says human better than barely contained propulsion. Engineering was controlled chaos. Sparks flared briefly from a corner where a technician worked on a panel, swearing under his breath. The ship's AI, a clipped female voice, chimed updates in the background. Alara scanned the room. It's unrefined. Some call it practical. Some call it a death trap. Depends on the day. You joke often. It helps. With fear? With everything. She fell silent. That wasn't a Xerthian response. Humor wasn't a shield in the Dominion, it was weakness. Yet here, it gave strength. Diffused tension. Shifted power. They moved through other sections, navigation, communications, the observation deck. Each had its own rhythm, its own scars and quirks. Alara absorbed it all, the way crews spoke without titles, how decisions were questioned, how problems were solved without hierarchy suffocating every breath. Back in the observation lounge, she settled into a low seat. Elias poured them both water. "You okay?" She looked at him. "You treat me like anyone." He nodded. "You are. In the Dominion, I am watched, weighed, calculated. Here I am. Alara," he said simply. "Not a princess. Not a symbol." She stared into her glass. "They won't let this go quietly." "No," he said. "They'll want you back. And if I refuse? They'll try other ways." She met his gaze. "And you? I didn't ask for this. But I won't throw you back to them." There was no bravado in his voice, only certainty. It disarmed her more than any flattery could have. The next days followed a rhythm. Alara observed, questioned, debated. She sat with the ship's engineer, watched the medics in their cramped bay, even joined a session in the simulator where a pilot let her crash the ship 3 times with good-natured jabs. She began to see how humans adapted, not through dominance, but through flexibility. They failed, joked, rebuilt. And they let others in. No test of loyalty. No trials by politics. Just space to become. One evening, she stood outside the crew quarters, watching 2 junior officers argue over chess. Elias appeared beside her. "We're not graceful, but we get where we're going. You're more than I was taught." "That's true for most species," he said. "We all build stories to justify fear." She looked at him. "I'm pregnant." Silence. Elias didn't move. "You're sure?" "Yes. I ran the scans twice." Quietly. His face remained calm, but something changed. His eyes sharpened, breath slowed. "How long have you known?" "A day. And you told me now because I trust you," she said. That stopped him. "No one's ever said that to me like it mattered." "Well," she said, "it does." He leaned against the wall, staring at nothing for a long moment. Then, "Do you want to keep it?" "Yes," she said. "And I won't let them take that from me." He nodded slowly. "Then we protect it." She turned toward him. "We? You think I'd let you face that alone?" A strange warmth settled in her chest. Not romance. Not yet. But alliance. Maybe more. "Then we begin again," she said. The ship jumped to another star. Outside, the stars kept shifting. But now, so did something inside her. And there, somewhere between systems and species, something new began to grow. Alara stood in the Odyssey's medbay, watching the skin cycle end with a soft tone. The image hovered in the air, tiny, unfamiliar, unmistakably alive. A hybrid. Hers. Elias's. A future no council ever approved. Dr. Lang, the ship's physician, cleared her throat. "You're stable. No abnormalities in the genetic fusion. Whatever species barriers existed, they didn't resist this." Alara turned to her, eyes steady. "It's viable?" Lang nodded. "More than that. The child's development is accelerated. Harmonized. You should know, word of this will get out. There's no such thing as secrets on a ship like this." "I'm not hiding it," Alara said. Lang raised an eyebrow. "Then prepare for consequences." Alara already had. Consequences came with every breath since she stepped aboard. This was no longer a diplomatic detour. This was an act of defiance. And now, something even more dangerous. It was hope. The message from the Zerthian Dominion arrived the next morning. No greeting. No ceremony. Just the sharp, dispassionate voice of Chancellor Cale Thorne, recorded and wrapped in political venom. "Princess Alara Velzerth, your presence aboard the human vessel is unauthorized and disgraceful. You are hereby summoned to return to Zerthia Prime for formal review. Should you refuse, your status will be stripped, your lineage expunged, and all protection revoked. This is your only warning." It played in the command chamber. Elias watched in silence, jaw tense, arms crossed. When it ended, he exhaled slowly. "They moved fast," he muttered. Faster than I expected. They're afraid, Alara said. Of what? She looked him in the eye. Change. He didn't argue. Instead, he called for a private channel. Patch me through to Haven Station, he told the comms officer. Priority code, diplomatic line. Haven Station was a political no man's land, orbiting a neutral gas giant at the edge of Dominion space. It was lawless in places, overregulated in others, and packed with refugees, smugglers, diplomats, and species who'd long stopped trusting empires. The Odyssey docked without fanfare, its hull still marked with Earth's fading sigil. No flags, no parades. But as Alara stepped into the station's gravity field, she felt the shift. Here, titles meant little. Power came from allies, favors, and what you carried in your hand, or under your coat. Elias led her through the labyrinthine corridors to a secure chamber inside the diplomatic corps. Representatives from 5 systems sat around a curved table: Vrash of the Ictari Alliance, Envoy Reen from the Galactic Trade Compact, a silent observer from the Kaltari Accord, and 2 others, skeptics, all of them. Elias spoke first. We need asylum for Princess Alara Velzerth and protection for her unborn child. One of the envoys raised an eyebrow. Is this a personal matter or political? It's both, Elias replied. The Dominion has issued threats. She carries a child they will not tolerate. Another envoy leaned forward. You're asking us to protect her from her own people? I'm asking you to recognize what this represents, Alara said, stepping forward. My child is proof that the species divide is not absolute. That our laws, our hierarchies, they're built on lies about purity and separation. The room was quiet. Then Reen asked, And what do you offer in return? Information, Alara said. About the Dominion. Internal fractures, dissent, hidden alliances. They are not as united as they appear. Evidence? I'll provide it. Elias glanced at her, but didn't interrupt. She was no longer just a passenger. She was taking the reins. Vrash rumbled deep in his chest. This will cause waves. The Dominion won't let this slide. They've had centuries of silence, Elias said. It's time someone made noise. Later, in their assigned quarters aboard Haven, Alara stood by the window, watching the stars rotate in slow arcs. They'll try to kill me, she said. Elias sat on the edge of the couch. They'll try to control you first. Assassination comes later, when control fails. Poetic. Accurate. She turned. You should leave. No. Elias, this isn't your war. I know, he cut in. But I'm in it now. You made a choice. So did I. Alara crossed the room. Why? He shrugged. Because you didn't bow. Because you made the council squirm. Because for once someone who had power decided to use it for something real. She stared at him. That's dangerous loyalty. He smiled. You're worth the risk. That night, Elias met with a contact in the underlayers of Haven, a former Zerthian intelligence officer, now exiled. She handed him a data core filled with files, military movements, internal surveillance reports, lists of dissenters marked for silencing. They've known for years that cracks were forming, she said. Alara isn't the cause. She's the symbol. Elias nodded. That's enough to build something. By dawn, the files had been verified and uploaded to multiple channels. The story broke like a shockwave across the quadrant. Zerthian princess defects with hybrid child. Dominion secrets leaked. Alliance leaders react. On board the Odyssey, encrypted transmissions buzzed non-stop. Some offered support. Others threatened retaliation. But what mattered was that people were talking. The Dominion silence had been shattered. Alara sat in the ship's central chamber, watching the news feeds. She felt no pride, no vindication. Only focus. Elias entered quietly. The station granted asylum. She nodded. Good. He held up a new transmission. And a dozen minor systems just pledged to support an inquiry into Zerthian human rights violations. She turned to him. You started a rebellion. No, he said. You did. I'm just keeping pace. A pause. Then she reached for his hand. Not out of romance, not yet. But solidarity. Strength shared between two people who refused to look away. This isn't just politics anymore, she said. No, Elias agreed. It's personal now. And outside, across the stars, 100 silent voices began to speak. The room was quiet, but the tension was a living thing. Light from the hollow displays flickered across Alara's face as she reviewed the Dominion fleet's movement reports. Her fingers moved steadily, her mind sharper than it had ever been. War hadn't officially begun, but lines had been drawn. Behind her, Elias stood by the window of their suite on Haven Station. Outside, a dozen ships hovered, some Earth-built, others from minor systems that had pledged loyalty to the coalition rising in her name. Most were outdated, underarmed, patched together with hope and desperation. But they flew, and they chose to fly for her. You don't have to speak at the summit, Elias said quietly. You've already done more than anyone expected. She didn't turn. That's the problem. They didn't expect anything. Not from me. Not from us. He stepped closer. You've become something they fear. They fear what I represent, she corrected. The end of their control. She turned then, her posture calm but unflinching. I'll speak. And not for peace. Elias nodded once. No arguments. He knew better now. The Galactic Summit was held on Haven's central platform, a wide, open-air structure surrounded by artificial gravity fields and flanked by banners of every attending faction. The Dominion hadn't shown. Instead, they sent a statement through back channels. This mockery will be ignored. The Dominion does not negotiate with traitors. The hall was packed anyway. Leaders, envoys, press. Armed guards from 6 species stood at the perimeter. Alara stepped to the center alone. No one spoke. Even the background noise fell away. She began. My name is Alara Velzerth. Born into the Dominion's ruling caste. Taught obedience. Trained in silence. Expected to serve, not lead, not question, not change anything. And yet here I stand. Her voice did not rise, did not plead. It struck clearly, like glass breaking. I carry a child that should not exist, according to those who raised me. A life considered an abomination by my own blood. Not because it is dangerous, but because it is proof that our divisions are manufactured. That our laws are lies. Murmurs. Cameras locked in. You are not here to protect me. You are here because you've also been silenced. Marginalized. Exploited by an empire that pretends to be sacred. But no order built on fear can survive truth. And today truth speaks. She paused. Let the silence land. This is not rebellion. This is reclamation. Of voice. Of choice. Of future. Join me, not to burn what was, but to build what could be. She stepped back. No applause. Just stillness. Then one envoy stood. Then another. And another. The message had landed. The backlash was immediate. Within hours, a Zerthian dreadnought entered orbit. No communication. No warning. Just presence. An unsubtle threat. The Odyssey scrambled alongside coalition vessels to intercept. Shields rose. Weapons primed. Elias stood on the bridge, expression grim. They won't fire first, he said. They want us to. Alara joined him, watching the dreadnought drift like a shadow against the stars. They want justification. He nodded. If we attack, they claim self-defense. So we don't attack, she said. Then they'll try something else. They didn't have to wait long. A shuttle detached from the dreadnought, small, unmarked, headed for Haven's surface. It landed without clearance. 3 Zerthian counselors stepped out, flanked by armored guards. They want to talk? Elias said, incredulous. No, Alara replied. They want to dictate. The counselors arrived in full regalia, dripping arrogance. They were shown to a private chamber where Alara waited alone. Elias remained outside, watching every move. The eldest counselor, Merrick Tal, leaned forward as he Saturday. You've created quite a mess. I've uncovered the rot you hid beneath gold. He smiled thinly. And what now? You plan to govern this coalition of strays? I don't plan to rule, she said. Only to remove your permission. Another counselor snorted. You overestimate your importance. You are a symbol. Symbols burn. Alara stood slowly. Then strike. But understand this. Every system you silence will become louder. Every life you try to erase will be remembered. Merrick's expression darkened. You are outnumbered. No, she said. You are outgrown. That evening, the counselors returned to their dreadnought without another word. No shots were fired. No message followed. Silence itself became their retreat. Aboard the Odyssey, Alara stood once more in the observation bay. Elias joined her, arms crossed, gaze distant. Do you think they'll come back? He asked. Yes, she said. But next time, they won't be able to pretend they're in control. He studied her. You've changed. I've remembered who I could have been, if they hadn't clipped my wings. He nodded slowly. And who do you want to be now? She glanced at him, then down at her abdomen. A mother. A witness. Maybe something more. He stepped closer. Whatever you become, I'll be there. Alara didn't smile, but something softened behind her eyes. Then we keep going. Weeks passed. Alliances solidified. The child grew. Ships once loyal to the Dominion began to defect, guided by commanders tired of enforcing fear. A new council began to form, not ruled by dominance, but driven by collaboration. Alara never claimed leadership. She didn't have to. Her presence shaped the room like gravity. And yet, amid the diplomacy and rebuilding, there were quiet moments. One evening, Elias found her sitting alone in the ship's garden module, hands resting on her stomach. I've been thinking, she said without looking up. About names? She nodded. In our tradition, names must carry meaning. He sat beside her. Then we choose one together. She turned to him. Let it be a name that doesn't belong to either world. A name that belongs to the future. He nodded once. Agreed. And so, under a sky of artificial starlight and the hush of growing life, they began not just a rebellion, but something rarer, a beginning.